And what's up, hockey fans, and welcome to Marty's Illegal Stick, episode number 97, here on the Sports History Network. I'm Scott Kimball, and man, we got a great show lined up. This is going to be so much fun because it's awards season. Yes, before the playoffs start, we decided we're going to get those pesky awards out of the way. And to help us do that, as always, our faithful companions here on this crazy hockey trip. First of all, Mr. Chris Mazzotti. Chris, how are you?
Hey, hanging in there.
Hanging in there? Well, good, because we got a lot of work to do today. That's good.
Wearing my Florida shirt.
Nice
much
and relaxed. I like it.
Much like Florida, this shirt is tattered and battered at this time of the year, but it's hanging in there.
When I played for Team Chile, there was we played at the Panthers practice arena in the LATAM Cup, and I have so much Panthers stuff now. I don't believe in second teams, but I love the Panthers. Just for hosting that tournament.
I'll tell you, it's too bad with the Panthers. I mean, they're a cool team. They really are. I mean, I've said this 1,000 times, though. I just don't know if they're in the right market. But
honestly, I will say they have such support overseas and in South America and Latin America that they are in the right market. They are. It's just unfortunately all their fans are not in their market.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, if you look at games, I mean, last season, they were good, so more fans showed up. But for the longest time, you look at their home arena and the place is basically empty.
I know.
Not when the Rangers play there.
Yeah, right.
That's because half the Rangers fans live in Miami because they're retired and archaic and old.
The snowbirds.
Yeah, you got snowbirds.
Yeah, and that other voice you've been hearing is our Beer League All-Star himself, Mr. Estefaniak. And thank you for getting out of bed early to join us.
Sacrifices must be made. It's award season, and I come out in full. I put my vote in for Brendan Fraser to win Best Actor, and I got more votes for this one.
Oh, well, there you go.
I got a question. How much beer do you have to drink to be an All-Star?
I quit drinking.
Okay.
In all honesty, I don't drink anymore. I was getting bad, so I decided to stop. But with that being said, I had the best season statistically in our B League, so I'm a Beer League All-Star.
So you're retired Beer League.
Well, I'm retired beer, but I'm still in the league.
I got you.
If you can figure that out.
It's like one of those Chris Pronger situations.
Yeah.
You're in the Hall of Fame, but you're still under contract.
Yeah. Well, fellas, I'll tell you what, we got a lot of work to do here, so why don't we just jump right into this thing? All right, and I'm going to start off with the easy one because I think this award is basically going to be the low-hanging fruit, basically. It's the Hart Trophy, League MVP. We'll go over the nominees, even though, by the way, these are just nominees that we come up with. There is no official word out yet, as far as I know.
No, there's nothing yet.
Who's going to be the nominees for the show? So it'll be interesting to see when they do come out just how close we were. But anyways, the ones that we came up with are, number one, of course, Connor McDavid. 78 games played, 62 goals, 85 assists for 147 points. You got Linus Ullmark, the goaltender from the Boston Bruins. He's having a heck of a season. He has, won 38 games, lost 6. He's got 1 overtime loss, 937 save percentage to go along with a 1.90 goals against average and 2 shutouts. And then the other one I threw in just for you, Ed, because you're such a big Florida Panthers fan now, Matt Tkachuk. 75 games played, 39 goals, 64 assists for 103 points. What do you guys think about those nominees? Is there anybody else that we left out?
Honestly, I don't think anyone we left out. If there could be a fourth nominee, and I know I'm going to be an ultra homer, just call me Jack Edwards for saying this, but Pasternak's having a hell of a year.
Yeah, he is. I actually thought about that.
I think having 2 Bruins in there would be a little bit too much. Kind of like throwing what's his name, Draisaitl in with McDavid. But
that's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. You look at those stat lines, and it's like, Draisaitl deserves to be considered. So does Pastrnak, but you got to spread the wealth a little bit, right?
Yeah. I have my beliefs on the Hart Trophy, and it should be who's most valuable to their team. But I understand that sometimes the one man pony show that is Connor McDavid is just too much to overlook. So honestly, Connor McDavid.
Yeah. How about you, Mazzotti?
Well, here's my thing with McDavid. I feel like he gets the trophy is, like Ed said, the player most valuable to their team. Now, obviously, McDavid's very valuable, but he's got Draisaitl. I feel like that waters down his valuability a little bit. Whereas, like, honestly, I was going to jump on Ed's bandwagon there. I think it's Pasternak. I don't think there's a player in this league that's been more valuable to his team than Pasternak, except maybe one, and that's Jason Robertson. Where are the Dallas Stars without Jason Robertson?
They're dead.
Are they even in a playoff position?
No.
Like, probably not. The kid's got 101 points. I mean, the top of this list is ridiculous because McDavid obviously is far and ahead away from everybody at 147 points. Draisaitl's got 123. Forget Kucherov's and still kicking around at 106. Then it's Pasternak and Tkachuk at 103 and Robertson at 101. But if I had to look at that list of guys, I would say Robertson's the most valuable one. They're not going anywhere without him. Maybe Tkachuk. Those two have about the similar value to their teams, I think.
That's really interesting, actually. That is.
Robertson blew my mind. I totally forgot about him. And you know what? That's because he's a Dallas Star. If he was a Ranger or in any other, team,
East Coast bias,
Northeast bias, then I would definitely say he's a shoe-in for Hart Trophy. But man, you're right. You're absolutely right. Dallas would be nothing without Jason Robertson. Sagan's unreliable with his injuries. Ben's unreliable with his age. Jason Robertson is that's a
really good call, Mazzotti, actually.
And Ben's had a good year. I know people have been down on Ben, but he's had actually a pretty good year. But Robertson's just, especially that first half of the season, he was just blowing people away. You know?
Yeah, he was keeping up with McDavid for a while.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I'm looking at it right now, and I know plus minus doesn't mean anything in this league anymore because of advanced analytics and all that, which to me, I mean, listen, analytics are a tool. I don't think that every decision in hockey should be based upon analytics, mainly because I still don't understand a lot of it. But I'll be the first one to tell you a lot of it's still above my head. And yes, I know plus minus can get skewed very easily. I understand that part. But in looking at these numbers, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and even Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who, believe it or not, is the 8th leading scorer in the league this year as well, they're plus minus. So McDavid is plus 18, Draisaitl is plus 6, and let's see, Nugent-Hopkins is plus 8. So if you want to be in the most valuable player conversation, and you're putting up 147 points, I got to tell you, I would expect you to be on the ice a heck of a lot more than 18 times than what your team gave up. Yes, I understand that's a byproduct of a bad defensive team. I get it. But still, there's something to be said for that if you're going to put up those, Gretzky-like numbers, so to speak, I would think that you better not be giving up as many goals. What do you guys think about that?
Well, in the plus-minus category, in the top 10 in plus-minus right now, 5 of those players are from Boston. 5. The leader being Matt Grizzly.
I love him.
The only one that is in Hart contention, which is in the top 10, would be Robertson. He's number 7. And number 10, Pasternak. Yeah. So, if you're talking about valuability there, right again, Robertson proves it right there. He's scoring the goals, and he's also playing better defensively than McDavid and Draisaitl and Kucherov.
Oh, yeah. So, with Robertson, Jason Robertson really is. He wins faceoffs when he has to. Just overall, just a good player. Good player. Yeah. He can play all sides of the ice. Just undeniably, just the heart of that team.
I think at the end of the day, when you're comparing apples to apples, and you look at this whole thing, we can probably nitpick apart everybody's game if we really wanted to. But it's awful hard to vote against the center as opposed to a wing when all things are relative, right? Because let's face it, on the ice, the center has more responsibility. The center has more face-off responsibility. The center has more defensive responsibility, and that's not taken away from the wing. That's just the facts.
Yeah.
So I think, obviously, and you know what's going to happen come award season, McDavid's going to run away with this award. I'll be surprised if anybody gets any other first-place vote besides McDavid, to be honest with you.
And they hardly ever give it to a goalie. Hardly ever.
Right. I threw that in just because I thought that was interesting.
When was Jose Theodore the last goaltender to win the Hart? Or was it Carey Price?
It was Carey Price.
It was a Carey Price?
Yeah.
I knew it was a Canadian. I just didn't know.
It was Carey Price. So, with that being said, those are all great arguments, and I'm not convinced that, listen, Connor McDavid's a great player. He's phenomenal.
It's going to be Connor McDavid, but
I'm also just kind of there. To me, there's things about Connor McDavid that, you know what, not for nothing too. You look at Edmonton, and again, I don't want to go on a rant or anything like that. When are these guys going to start winning something? Right? Because for 7 seasons now, all we've heard about is Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. What do they have? 1 conference finals appearance to show for it? They've never even been to the Stanley Cup final. So if you're going to be the second coming of hockey gods or whatever, you would think that after 7 years, even as bad as defensively that team has been, something would give.
Yeah, 7 years. Can you believe that? Like, how about Austin Matthews on the same regard? Like, these guys are supposed to be superstars of the league. They haven't even won a round. Like,
I'll tell you, I was doing some research for this whole Hart thing, and I was looking for Austin Matthews. I'm like, where is he? He's 22nd in the league in scoring. I understand he missed a few games. He's only played 70 games, but he has had a wicked off year. I mean, it's funny to say he's got 80 points and he's having an off year.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Awful, right? Well, by Austin Matthews standards, he's got 38 goals and 42 assists. Believe me, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Hanging out with Bieber too much.
Yeah. So, guys, I want to ask you a question, too, about Connor McDavid while we're talking about him. So, last week, there was I don't know if you saw it or not, there was a questionable hit in the Edmonton-LA game up in Edmonton where McDavid basically buried Kings defenseman Mike Anderson, hit him from behind into the boards, folded him basically like a bag. He got a 2-minute penalty, and Anderson has been out of action since. So, number one, do you think Connor McDavid got a break because of who he is?
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. Is Connor McDavid a dirty player?
He has shown flashes of dirtiness. He's had that $5,000 fine in the past where he just had a flying elbow right into somebody's just nose. He shows his frustration through dirty plays. He doesn't do knee on knee or slew foots or anything like that, but he will take questionable hits. But he also receives a lot of questionable hits. So I'm not saying it evens out, but his frustration, he definitely shows it a lot more, especially as of late. He definitely got a break because he's Connor McDavid, though. Because if it was anybody else that isn't in Hart contention, if it was hypothetical, if it was Michael Bunting that did it, Michael Bunting would have got 5. Would have gotten 5 games. Because
that's kind of the standard in the NHL, right? If somebody gets injured, that's when the Department of Player Safety starts looking at it.
Yeah.
Which, right or wrong, because honestly, it shouldn't be that you have to go to the hospital to get a disciplinary hearing against somebody. I mean, that's the way it is in the NHL.
Who did he hit?
He hit Mikey Anderson, defenseman for the Kings. And it was blatant right from behind. And, there are some that are defending McDavid say, well, he didn't drive him into the boards. And it's like, he hit him from behind and he went flying face first into the glass. And he went down. He tried.
Did he leave his feet?
Did he leave his feet?
Yeah, did Connor leave his feet or leave the ice surface?
It didn't really look like he jumped. Instead, he just kind of drove him in from behind with the old 2-hand cross check.
Yeah,
I just saw it. That's a 2. I would say it's a 2. I'd say he got what he got. No, two
Really?
2 minutes. Yeah.
Even with an injury.
Listen, what he did was it a hockey play? He does kind of hold up. He didn't come at full speed. So I would say, being that he kind of held up, even though he still hit the guy in the numbers into the glass, which they're trying to get rid of. If I didn't see it as a 5. Now they could have called it a 5 and reviewed it for it, but if they say it's not a 5 after they review it, I believe it's not a penalty at all, right? They can't lower it to a 2, can they?
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, they can.
They can?
They can lower.
Well, then they should have probably did that just to be safe to look at it.
I agree with that.
I don't think the refs are in that mindset. I think hopefully with some of these refs that are retiring, that they might get into that mindset a little more. Not like all the time. I mean, every penalty we call the major, so we take a 10-minute review to see what it really was. But in an instance like that where, the guy gets hit in the numbers into the glass, he goes down, it's probably not a bad idea to review that, and just call it a 5 and take a look.
I think any questionable hit from behind, slew foot, knee on knee should be defaulted to that, just to see the intent. High stickings and hookings and any realistic, like just, 2-minute penalties. No, you can't review everything, but if it's a hit from behind,
I mean,
definitely see if the player turned into it.
TJ Oshie crushed Lindgren in the numbers in the wall at center ice, but it was in the numbers. He came across the ice to do it. Lindgren's played 1 game since, and there wasn't even a 2-minute on that one.
There's been inconsistencies.
If
a whole lot this year.
Let's just say the roles reversed. What if Mikey Anderson had done that to Connor McDavid?
Mikey Anderson.
Connor McDavid is out since last week because of the hit. Anderson only gets 2 minutes and that's it. You don't think that people wouldn't be completely up in arms right now about how the NHL doesn't protect its players and the NHL doesn't care. It only wants violence, right? Could you imagine the backlash?
The Edmonton Mafia would be looking for.
It would have been insane. Right, exactly. So to me, if you're gonna call it one way, you got to call it for everybody. And yes, I've heard all about how Connor gets hit too, and Connor. I understand it because you know who else we heard all that about? Sidney Crosby, because it was the excuse for when Sidney Crosby hacked Mark Mathot's finger off. Remember that? That was the excuse. He gets hit with dirty hits too. Okay, fine, whatever. Oh, we just lost.
Bye, Mazzotti. Well,
you'll be back.
You pissed off, Mazzotti.
Yeah, I know.
He just left us.
Right. So
I agree.
But you know what? And honestly, I'm going to tell you something, Ed. I don't even really have a major problem with him not getting suspended or anything like that. I don't. You know what? It is what it is, and it happened. You know what my problem is? I watched the Kings game last night. The Kings against the Oilers. They had the rematch in L.A. And I understand you're in a tight playoff spot. You're battling with each other. Not one response from the Kings.
Yeah, you got to respond. It doesn't have to be on McDavid.
No, but you gotta send the message that
you gotta go. You gotta go for Nurse. You gotta run the goalie a couple times. You gotta.
I'm not saying even hurt somebody, but I'm just saying
but
you don't have to hurt anybody. What I'm saying is you gotta get the message back that you know what, we're not going to take this.
Mazzotti, you hated being in the top right so much that you just left to come back.
Apparently, the fine folks at Spectrum decided to shut off my internet. So I'm coming to you live AT&T 5G.
All right. So one more thing with McDavid, then we'll move on. Outside of Connor McDavid, who is the best player in the NHL?
Right now?
Right now.
Are we talking most valuable to their team?
Who would you rather have?
Who would I rather? I mean, right now, Linus Hallmark.
Interesting.
I mean, well, you got to think, that the record speaks for itself, and a lot of it has to do with the Bruins in front of them.
Well, we're going to talk about that in just a minute, too. So.
I bet Connor McDavid wishes he had Linus Hallmark right now.
I bet Connor McDavid wishes he had a shooter tutor right now.
Even though that Stuart Skinner hasn't been bad.
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't been bad at all.
But he wasn't supposed to be the guy. They go out and spend all this money on Campbell.
Jack Campbell.
He's too busy feeding his cats.
Jack Campbell making backup goalies look great for 5 straight years.
Yeah.
How about me as what?
Who would you, outside of Connor McDavid, who would you want on your team?
I mean,
anybody in the league.
Man, I like Pasternak.
Yeah,
I really do like Pasternak.
I do like Pasta.
You know, Pasternak, every time I think, like, this guy doesn't have an angle, he doesn't have a shot. He roofs it over the goalie's shoulder by 2 inches on the goal line. And it's like, come on, man. Like, it's not even fair. like some of the goals he scores are like, how the F did that go in? Like, it's really crazy to me. Like how many goals he gets that are like just mystery, like seeing eye pucks.
Can we just,
he can hit. He's fast. He never gives up. That's what I like about Pasternak. He doesn't give up on a play. The rest of his line could go to the bench, and he'll just keep going with the puck and doing what he can do. Like, I like a player like that. He's got a ton of heart.
And can I just say this one thing about Pasternak, and that he has such a personality, and the league just misses out on marketing him over and over again.
I love those Dunkin' commercials that he was doing. Those were great.
What was it? The game in Lake Tahoe where he's just like in an interview with his Pit Viper glasses on. He's like, "They're playing Barbie Girl. I want to get in and listen." He just has such a personality. I love him.
You're right. You're so right. Okay. Speaking of the Bruins, let's go on to the Vezina then, shall we? The Vezina.
I think this one's kind of a run.
I don't know about that. The Vezina Trophy, the 3 candidates they came up with, of course, Linus Ullmark. Linus Ullmark is 38-6-1. We just mentioned all this. Same percentage of 937 and a GAA of 190. Alexander Georgiev, familiar name to you, Mazzotti. He is 36-16-5. He's got a 919 save percentage and a 2.54 GAA. And the other one that I came up with, and again, feel free to add to this list, Connor Hellebuyck, 34-24-2. He has a 918 save percentage, a 2.56 GAA. What say you, gentlemen?
I think Ullmark by a landslide. Nothing against the other two, but the statistics are just, the numbers are there for Ullmark with that goals against average and save percentage. He's far and above statistically the better goalie. It does a lot, and again, does a lot of it have to do with the Bruins defense and what he has in front of him. Probably you don't have successful goaltenders don't win on their own. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but when you put up those numbers, he had a sub-1 goals against average for like most of the season. He had like a 0.98 up until the All-Star break, which is insane.
You know what my problem with Linus Ullmark is?
He's not an NHL
team. No. An NHL team plays 82 games in a season. Our season is just about over. You know how many games he started? 46. That is just above 50% of his team's games, right? Now, the numbers are phenomenal, but look at some of these other guys in that same category. So you got Georgiev, who started 57. Connor Hellebuyck started 60. Even looking down the list, like Andrei Vasilevsky's 58, UC Saros 59. These guys have played much more than Ullmark has, and that's not Ullmark's fault. But what I'm trying to say to you is if Ullmark had played the same amount of games as these guys, would those numbers be as spectacular? Because you're now running into the chance that he goes cold and those numbers blow up, right?
That's a possibility. I mean, also you gotta look at Bruins management here and sit there and say, wow, they got a 1A and a 1B.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, believe me, that's an ideal situation. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not really on Georgiev or on Ullmark, but you could also throw it the other way around and say, well, if they only have one goaltender and that one goaltender goes down, where are they? But in the sake of the Vezina, it's hard to go against in my eyes. 46 games is nothing to slouch at. You still have 5 more games, and I'm sure he's going to start 3 of them.
Okay, so that'll bring him to 49. Vezina, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's Allmark by a landslide. I'd probably say the backup votes probably go to like Hellebuck. I don't know how much Georgiev gets. I mean, his GAA is a 2.54.
Right.
It's not really. It's kind of high for a Vezina trophy. Whereas, like, I mean, every goalie's had a rough year as far as that. But I mean, even Sorokin's only a 2.4. And Sorokin's got 5 shutouts this year.
Right.
That's
so Georgiev though.
Yep, he does. He does, but I don't know. It seems like I feel like those 5 shutouts in LA, or in Colorado, it's not quite the same as having 5 shutouts on Long Island to me, just because of the competition. Because let's face it, the competition in the West has not been the same as the competition in the East this year. And I think Hellebuck's had a hell of a year. I think he's really underrated. Again, player most valuable to his team, probably Hellebuck. The Jets probably aren't even in any type of playoff conversation without him. Right. Former winner Shesterkin's he turned it around, but he had a rough start to the year, especially with like how many goals were going in each game, even though he got some victories there that weren't, he was letting in 4 goals a game there for a while.
Right.
So he's probably out of contention. Vasilevsky, he has not had a normal year. He's had some real stinkers of games this year. I know because he's on my fantasy team, and he lets in 7. It just drives me crazy. Again, most valuable to his team, UC Soros. Nashville's not in the hunt without him. I wish there was 2 goalie awards, not just Vezina.
William Jennings Award. The Jennings Award.
Yeah. What's the Jennings?
That goes to that's GAA, right?
Best save percentage between.
It's basically like a stat one. I wish there was like a Hart trophy that literally was just for goalies. Like, what's the most valuable goalie to a team? Take all the goalies in the league. Who's the most valuable to their team? Like, because I feel like that's not necessarily the Vezina winner all the time.
No, I agree.
Like Allmark's been great. Don't get me wrong, but Swayman's been pretty great too. And that's why they're dividing things well. And
that's my point.
Yeah, I get it. And because you're right, he's like he doesn't have the heavy workload. He's got great numbers, but he doesn't have the heavy workload that all these other guys do.
Right.
So, but you can't deny he's been really great, and I give him credit.
Listen, there's no doubt about it, and I think it's a great story because I liked him when he was out in Buffalo. Back when they were awful, he was just getting lit up every night. Felt bad for the guy.
Felt bad, yeah. Because he was so good in Rochester.
Exactly.
I mean,
and it's really nice to see him have this kind of success. It's just with me, and maybe I'm old school and I'm still used to the workhorse goalie, that kind of thing. I just can't. I can't bring myself to say, a guy who only played in just over half of his team's games is the best.
It's a very old take.
I can't do it. So for that, my vote's going with Hellebuck. I'm telling you. Because just for the simple reason, Winnipeg is nowhere near a playoff spot without him. And if he were to go down there, they're done. Whereas, say, Allmark, unfortunately, had some kind of an injury, Swayman can step right in.
Yep.
Let's be honest, Swayman can step in. Whereas there's nobody in Winnipeg that's going to do that. As far as Georgiev, And I think like Georgiev and Shesterkin are just mirrors of each other, especially if you look at the numbers this season. It's basically very much the same. But I think they also they benefit from being on great teams as well, just like Allmark does, just like Swayman does, right? And that's not taking anything away from them. Hey, listen, you know why they're great? Because they play goal for those teams too. So it's a two-way street. All right. I'm saying that for me and for my vote, Connor Hellebuyck has played in almost 75% of his team's games. And putting up the kind of numbers that he has, well, not as good as Allmark's, still, he's been in there more, and he has been a far greater reason to his team's success. Not far. I shouldn't say it like that. But he has been more of a reason for his team's success than Allmark has.
Yeah, I would agree. And the third string in Boston is Kincaid, correct?
No, he got traded out to Colorado.
Yeah, Kincaid got
He's
traded out
third.
to Colorado.
But he was there all year, Kincaid?
Yeah, he was third string.
Brandon Busey
he was till the trade deadline. Then they moved him.
Yeah, because Brandon Busey's been lighting it up in Providence for the baby Bruins, whatever you want to call them. So
I feel bad for Keith Kincaid.
I know.
I hope he has like a Tim Thomas type of career where like all of a sudden at the end he gets a shot and he lights it up, because I don't think he got a fair shot in Jersey, and in the Rangers he was a third string. He got to play a few games, did well for him.
Yeah.
But he's been kind of relegated to this AHL NHL borderline, and I don't think it's fair. I mean, Toronto's looking for goalies. Like, a lot of teams are looking for goalies, and I think a lot of teams slept on Keith Kincaid.
Well, Toronto's too busy bringing back Cujo for a game. So
are they really?
Yeah, Cujo and Felix the Cat's going to be it.
Yeah, Cujo was their e-bug yesterday.
Awesome.
Or 2 days ago.
That is awesome.
Yeah, they caught him bringing his gear into the arena, and somebody asked him, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm the e-bug." Because Matt Murray got injured again.
No way.
Matt Murray injured again. What a shock.
No.
I can't believe it.
Honestly, and I feel bad for anybody who gets injured in the NHL. I don't care who they are. If they get hurt, I feel bad for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so fitting that it happens to Toronto year in and year out. I would love every one of those players on the Maple Leafs if they weren't Maple Leafs.
I think that's how every Rangers fan feels about Tom Wilson, isn't it, Mazzotti?
I kind of just hate him.
Okay.
I kind of, especially after this last game we played against them, he was taking all kinds of cheap shots, trying to get everybody going. To play. You could see the Rangers going like, "Where are you guys in the standings? Have fun golfing in 2 weeks."
Yeah, right.
They weren't biting at all. Like, no, we're not fighting against the guy who's not even making the playoffs. Have a good time. Like,
Mazzotti, I got one realistic question for you. If dystopian other universe here, Tom Wilson's a Ranger, do you love him?
Probably, if he didn't do what he did, but I don't know, even I'm a big Sean Avery fan, right? And I read his book. I've even actually DM'd directly with Sean Avery.
Did he yell at you about bike lane?
What's that?
Did he yell at you about bike lanes?
No, he was yelling at me about COVID stuff, and I had to put him in this place. I put it in place, and I said, "Big fan, Sean, big fan." But you're absolutely wrong. Sorry. Stop spreading crap. You're getting people killed.
Theo Fleury's real bad. I follow Theo Fleury on Twitter just for that.
And it's just going through Sean's book, because I went through Sean's book. I got an audio book of it, and there's a bunch, he admits, he was such an agitator, and that became such a part of his game, that in the end, it ended up being too big of a distraction. And that's really what ended his career. Yeah. It wasn't that he couldn't play anymore. He retired way too early. So much that he tried to come back last year, and it was too late. So, he definitely had more in the tank. but he didn't want to keep dealing with these frustrations. In the end, he was hurting the Rangers. Every little thing he did was a penalty. Every single game. It didn't matter.
Forget about it.
He farted in a guy's direction. It was 2 minutes.
Yep.
Like, it was it. And it was a big problem. And the rest of his game was really good. You're talking, he won Stanley Cups. Like, forget that. Like, he won with Detroit and stuff. Like, it's a shame because I like that part of the game. I like that part of the game. However, that can't be your only part of the game. And that can't be your life jacket. When things are going bad, I'm going to be the agitation. That's not always the thing to go to, so.
And where I really like Sean Avery.
And I think that's Wilson's problem. I think when the rest of his game goes down, he resorts to that, and it only gets them in trouble. And I don't like that.
But the one thing I can say, which I respect Sean Avery for, is Sean Avery never went out of his way to deliberately injure somebody. He would just poke and prod and be annoying.
Yeah, he was more of a pest.
Yeah, I really can't think of an instance where he goes out of his way to try to injure somebody. Where with Tom Wilson, you have the Oscar Sundqvist hit. You have him ragdolling Artemi Panarin because he's just.
Dude, they showed that replay again. It looks so bad, and for there not to have been any penalty, like, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
I agree. I'm 100% on your side. Tom Wilson goes out of his way to try to hurt people, and that's what needs to be taken out of the game. The deliberate, I'm just gonna jump onto a hit and see where it goes, and the carefree attitude of where he hits people, he's gonna ruin somebody's career.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Well, there's something to be said for that, for sure. But yeah, I mean, again, he's one of those guys. If he was on your team, you'd love to have him on your team. That's kind of goes without saying. But let's, I'll tell you what, let's move on to the Norris, because Mazzati, you were talking earlier about how with the Vezina, there should be like a Vezina trophy, and then there should be like an MVP for the goalie. This is one area that I think there should be 2 awards, because the Norris oftentimes just goes to the defenseman that scored the most points, but who isn't necessarily the best defenseman, right? So I would love to see either a Norris and either a Bobby Orr trophy to go to the highest scoring defenseman, or a Norris and say a Rod Langway trophy for the best, say who had the best defensive defenseman, right? But we don't have that. So for right now, there's what I've come up with. For the Norris, Erik Karlsson, the San Jose Sharks, 77 games played, 22 goals, 74 assists with 96 points. Dougie Hamilton from the New Jersey Devils. He's got 21 goals and 52 assists for 73 points. And Quinn Hughes from the Vancouver Canucks. He only has 7 goals, but he's got 66 assists, which makes 73 points. Is there anybody I left off of this list, and who should get the award?
I think until he shows us that he shouldn't be on this list, I think Adam Fox should always be on this list. Personally, Hampus Lindholm. There's been so many good defensive players this year. I think Karlsson personally. I know he's had a great year. 96 points is nothing really to scoff at, but he hasn't dragged his team anywhere. They're still in the hunt for Bedard. But personally, and same thing with Quinn Hughes. It sucks to say, but they're not making. They're out.
What's impressed me about Quinn Hughes though? He's actually playing defense this year.
Yeah,
he's a plus 14 on a bad Vancouver team.
On a bad team.
That's a really bad team. I think personally, Dougie Hamilton, Adam Fox. I know Brent Burns doesn't have the points this year, but you could always toss Brent Burns in there because he made an impact with that Carolina Hurricanes team.
Yeah, he's 13th amongst defensemen with 57 points, 14 goals, 43 assists. So obviously the tools are still there.
Yeah. He just doesn't have the workload like he did in San Jose, which let's say his age, he's doing great. It's going to go to Erik Karlsson. 96 points. It's going to go to Erik Karlsson. I personally think it should be playoff teams only. Because realistically, what good are you if you're not making the playoffs?
Yeah,
You know,
but that would have disqualified Mario Lemieux from any award up until about 1989. So,
I mean, Adam Fox won the year the Rangers didn't make the playoffs. You know, they came close.
But every game was a playoff. Okay, yeah, you're right.
You know, they came down. That was the year the league got canceled at the end because of COVID. Then they went to the COVID Cup tournament, the play-in tournament or whatever. And Adam Fox won that pretty handedly. I do think he should be in contention, but it's likely going to be a runaway with Karlsson. I do like Quinn Hughes. I would be interested to see how this gets voted because I don't know how many people actually like Erik Karlsson. And it's just to me, it's the oddest turnaround ever. Like,
It really is.
This guy went from a dumpster fire for a couple of years in San Jose to now he's the leading point getter in the NHL for defensemen. Like, is this just, a factor of Anaheim having no defense? Like, I mean, what I don't get it. Like, is it just them dining out on Anaheim and Arizona all year? I don't know. Like,
it has to be.
In all fairness,
Vancouver and
yeah.
In all fairness to Erik Karlsson, he did have Achilles surgery a couple seasons ago. And they do say there's about a full year timeline before you're really fully recovered from that. So obviously he's not the defensive stalwart. He's never been a defensive stalwart.
He's been a fourth.
Never. He's always been a defensive liability, to be perfectly honest. He's a fourth forward. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah,
right?
He's a fourth forward.
Which is he is the exact guy that I'm talking about when I say there should be like a Bobby Orr award.
I feel the same way about Dougie Hamilton, kind of, except Dougie Hamilton does play better defense than Erik Karlsson.
Right.
Like, but he's definitely a defense. Dougie Hamilton's also a defenseman that's very offensive minded, extremely. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you're giving an award for the best defenseman, shouldn't it, like you said, shouldn't it be for a guy that actually plays defense a good amount of the time?
Right.
And when I see Quinn Hughes, Josh Morrissey, and Rasmus Dahlin here in the top 5 as well, I'd rather give it to any of those 3 guys over Karlsson or Hamilton.
Dahlin's a wrecking ball.
You mentioned Dahlin. I mean, what a turnaround for him. He's finally grown into that number 1 overall pick hype that he came into the league with. And the tools were always there. It was just a matter of everything coming together, and it really did come together for him this season.
It did, but also look at it's starting to come together for Buffalo. Things are starting to take shape. It was about a matter of time for him.
Yeah,
it really. I think he was kind of hindered with the bad coaching and the bad leadership
absolutely
of that Buffalo team for years.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Totally agree. I gotta tell you something though. My vote would go with Dougie Hamilton. I never thought of Karlsson as a defenseman. I can't put that out of my head. And here's the thing too, right? With the turnaround that New Jersey had this year, somebody's got to win something, right? I mean, at some point, Vanacek's not going to win the Vezina.
No,
Hughes missed some time. He's not going to win the Hart, right? Nobody's going to win the Rocket Richard Award, but somebody somewhere has got to be recognized for something. So
you can give Hughes the Selkie.
Yeah.
That's the Bergeron Award. That's going to be the Bergeron.
They just keep that at Patrice Bergeron's house, and that's it.
Yeah.
Even after he retires, they're just going to keep.
I would be sick if he wins it again this year. Really, he does not deserve it. He does not deserve it. But as far as Norris goes, I also like to state that Miro Heiskanen's had a great year, and And probably the biggest surprise in this top 10 is Brandon Montour, who's been, outstanding for Florida on a Florida team that's had a ton of ups and downs. He's still a +9. He's sitting with 67 points, 14 goals, 53 assists. And he's been their best guy.
Well,
on a team that has Aaron Ekblad, Brandon Montour has been their best guy.
You know what it was? He took full advantage of an opportunity when Ekblad got hurt and Mackenzie Weegar got shipped out of town in the offseason. There was his openings, and kudos to him for, you're right, taking full advantage of that.
Went to the top 10 in defensemen for the league.
Yeah,
I mean, that's outstanding,
It really is.
And there's no award for best improved defenseman or something like that, but he would win it hands down, I think. I don't see how you couldn't.
You know who else quietly had a great year as far as it's Vince Dunn.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about it. Nobody. But I mean, he's got 13 goals, 50 assists, 63 points. Guys, he's a +26.
Yeah.
But it was so quiet. Nobody knew anything about what was Vince Dunn. Oh yeah, wasn't that the guy who was a third pair in St. Louis? Kind of washed out. They took him out in the expansion draft. Forgot all about. Well, here he is. He's back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Ed, who's your pick?
Honestly, it's going to be Erik Karlsson, 96 points. I hate to see it go to him. I'd like to see it go to somebody who made the playoffs. I'd like to see Dougie Hamilton or, even Brandon Montour or Miro Heiskanen. But it's going to be Erik Karlsson. The league doesn't fail to disappoint me.
How about you, Mazzotti?
I mean, I think the writers, don't have any stones, and they're just going to vote for Karlsson. But I don't think it should just be flattened away. The guy with the most points, just give it to him. I don't think that makes you the best defenseman. And when you're a team that Erik Karlsson's not doing his team any favors these days. They went from being first in the Connor Bedard sweepstakes to now they're 5th or 6th. They're not getting him. No way, they keep winning games.
Way to go.
They're winning games that don't mean anything. Karlsson can't get anything right in his career. Win the games that mean something, kid, and lose the games that mean something to lose. You're doing it backwards. Nah. I wouldn't give it. I'd go Quinn Hughes all day. If I was voting, I would go Quinn Hughes.
All right, interesting. Very, very interesting. We all have a different pick. I like it. I like it a lot.
Can we talk about who's the best defensive defenseman? Because I know who that is by a landslide.
You gonna say Lindholm?
No, I'm gonna say Trouba.
Oh, Trouba?
Trouba's the scariest guy in the league.
Right, because he actually hits a guy?
Because he actually, not just that, he cleanly does it.
I think there's a few people that would disagree with that statement, my friend. They don't call him Bose for nothing.
He's so good.
He's so overpaid.
He's overpaid. But you're also paying him for that veteran leadership on a
team full of veteran leadership. Yeah, I know.
The veteran leadership is the Patrick Kanes and all that. They're fairly new, but when he got there, they were pretty young.
Overpaid? Yes. He was overpaid the second he got there.
They gave him a first-round pick at Neil Pionk to get him.
I think Trouba's so good. I'm trying to pump your tires here, Mazzotti.
He's not helping.
Listen, like a Yankee fan, I'm a New York sports fan. Nobody can hate their team more than I do. I'm
a Boston sports fan.
And Trouba, I didn't like him getting the captain this year. I didn't agree with it. Everyone's like, "Oh, the great moment that he threw his helmet and told the team to wake up." I'm like, that was 5 games too late. In my opinion, they were playing such crap for 2 weeks, and he's like, "Wake up!" Yeah, Truman, where was this 2 weeks ago? Don't wait to go into you're the leader. What are you guys doing? Get me started on Trouba.
Yeah.
Check every time the Rangers get scored on. Who's the defenseman on the ice? 9 times out of 10, the guy who scored was Jacob Trouba's responsibility. Telling you, he's not even in this top 30, top 40 for defensemen.
Well,
Yeah, that's
he
the last
also
time he
didn't get a
his
goal
players, isn't it?
until the second Chicago game like a month ago.
Yeah. But I mean, assists, nothing. His shot is the most undeadly thing in the NHL. Like 9 times out of 10, it misses the net by about 5 feet. I don't even know why they have him on a power play. They should not. Keandre Miller makes Trouba look good. I'll tell you that much. Keandre Miller is the defenseman on that D pair.
Okay, moving right along.
Passionate.
The Calder Trophy for the best rookie in the league. 3 candidates. Again, add if you want. First one, Matty Beniers, the Seattle Kraken. 75 games played, 22 goals, 32 assists for 54 points. And then Matthias Michelli from the Arizona Coyotes. He's got 10 goals, 36 assists for 45 points. And last but certainly not least, former number 1 overall pick of the Buffalo Sabres, Owen Power. 73 games played, 4 goals, 27 assists for 33 points. Gentlemen, was there anybody that was left off of this list, and who should win it?
I think Matty Beniers is far and above the winner of this. Nothing against Owen Powers. I think Owen Powers is going to be a great player. The kid from Arizona, he's going to be great as long as he gets out of Arizona. But Owen Powers, he kind of was a spark plug on that team. Really, when you think of it, no one expected them to make the playoffs, and they're currently sitting in a playoff spot. You got to think Matty Beniers has to be some sort of catalyst in that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I had a hard time picking between Owen Power and, believe it or not, Stuart Skinner, the goaltender from Edmonton, right? So,
is he a rookie?
He's a rookie. He's 26, 14, and 5. He's got a 911 save percentage and a 2.84 goals against average.
Stuart Skinner looks like he's 47 years old.
I know. Well, I don't know. I don't even know how to say or how to respond to that. Well, anyways.
I mean, Scott, you look 64 years old. So.
Well, I'm getting there. So, but at the end of the day, I also kind of looked at it as Edmonton can outscore a lot of mistakes. And Skinner really didn't turn it on until the last month or so. So on the overall picture, I went with Power. But was there anybody that I left off of this list that you guys think should have been on?
Realistically, no.
Yeah.
I can't. I didn't even know about the kid from Arizona.
Yeah, well, again, it's because he's out in Arizona.
Yeah.
I have trouble even knowing who rookies are because every good time, like the guy's in his second season, I still consider him a rookie.
Yeah, I can't stand that. I can't stand that.
Because I'm like, what about that Marshman kid? And oh no, he's not a rookie. Troy Terry, oh no, he's not a rookie. I knew at the start of the year it was going to be Matty Beniers. I actually made him my last draft pick in fantasy, and then I didn't hang tough with him, and I let him go too early, and he got snatched up and ran away. Nobody dropped him the rest of the year.
Yeah, that was your mistake, pal.
But yeah, he's outstanding. Like when you see him on the ice, you notice him immediately. Yeah. There's nobody else that I can think of that I'm just like that has that even that. I mean, he has the intensity of skating like McDavid and these guys that you notice immediately. McKinnon, where you're like, who the hell is that? And then they're like McKinnon, you're like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel that Beniers is definitely going to be that next name. That's like, who the hell? Oh, it's Beniers. Yep. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So I don't see how he doesn't get a Calder Trophy. I think he should get it, take a nice picture with it, and send it to Sidney Crosby.
I think you're absolutely right. I think with him, obviously with Seattle being in a playoff spot right now, which nobody expected. Obviously, it's a team effort, but he's had a huge part of that.
Big part.
The one thing that Matty Beniers did for the Seattle Kraken, not only getting into a playoff contention, but he afforded them the luxury of not having to rush Shane Wright.
Yes.
Because let's not forget about that, too. Right?
I totally forgot he was a Kraken.
Yeah. And because of Beniers playing the way he has, they don't have to rush him. They can let him develop. They don't have to put all that pressure on him right away. So that's the other big thing. And I think, listen, Michelli's a nice story out of Arizona. It's, good for him, happy for him, having a great season. Again, same thing with Owen Power. But, Owen Power also doesn't have to have the pressure of being the number one defenseman, right? You got Rasmus Dahlin there for that. Another fellow number one overall pick. Whereas Beniers is the guy. He is the guy in Seattle. And I think he's handled it very well and very deserving of the Calder.
Let's put it this way. Right now by the standings, could Seattle afford to give up 8 points?
Well, let me pull the standings up here.
I don't think they could afford to give up 8 points.
Let's see. If Seattle lost 8 points right now, that would put them at 82 points. No.
Honestly,
they would be out of playoffs.
They would definitely be out of the playoffs.
Right. And Matty Beniers has 4 game-winning goals this year.
Yeah.
So that's 8 points directly attributed to Matty Beniers. He put them in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's it.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And it's not out of the realm of possibility they can still get in the top 3 in that Pacific Division either.
I wish they would.
It's a tough.
I wish they would because I'm dreading Edmonton LA series.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know. I don't know who I'd want to drop down. I think I want Edmonton to drop out of that top 3, but I don't think it's going to happen.
That would be hilarious. I would love to see Connor McDavid just implode. Draisaitl will request a trade at the offseason.
Yeah. Well, if they slipped into that first wild card, they'd have to play Vegas first round. I think that would be a lot of fun. Edmonton, Vegas first round.
Yeah, it would be actually. That would be. So, guys, we got one more to cover here. The Jack Adams for the best coach. Bazzotti, what do you think some candidates should be for the Jack Adams?
I don't think he's going to win it, and I don't hear people talking about it. Obviously, people are talking about Boston's coach. Yeah, he's done a great job this year. Obviously.
Jim Montgomery's a good coach.
Yeah, and he'll probably get it. He'll probably run away with it. But honestly, for my money this year, especially with the rough start that they had, and people were calling for him to be fired 2 weeks into the season, so badly that the fan base apologized to the coach in the rink. I think you might know where I'm going with this. Is Lindy Ruff.
Yeah.
Lindy Ruff, man.
Exactly.
He's done a hell of a job with New Jersey this year with those kids. For people that had written him off as being a coach after being a coach in Buffalo for so many years, he was an assistant coach with the Rangers, even as of last year. Was it last year he left or the year before?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years. Okay, so 2 years ago, the Devils came to the Rangers, asked if they could, and how nice of the Rangers. They could have told them, no, go eat a shoe. No way. We're not helping you for nothing. Are you kidding me, New Jersey?
That's awesome.
But no, New York doesn't play like that. They're like, no, we love Lindy. If he wants to go be your head coach, let him go be your head coach.
I gotta remember that. Go eat a shoe. I love
it. So, and really, the fans are chanting "Fire Lindy" 2 weeks into the season, and a month into the season, they're chanting "Sorry, Lindy." So,
forgive us.
Showing the New Jersey fans just, how humble they are when they're wrong, because they've done an outstanding job. I still think that they're going to win the division. I think they're going to take Carolina. They're still just, 3 points back with a few games to go. But Carolina, people are, sleeping that they're doing well, because they're not. Because they won last night, but they had a 2-0 lead that they blew, and then they had to win it in overtime and the's no 3-on-3 in the playoffs, Carolina. Good luck when that changes to 6-on-6 hockey indefinitely, when you can't get you don't have all that open ice. So that's another reason I hate the 3-on-3, but that's another topic. But I really think Lindy Ruff, for my money, should be the Jack Adams winner.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with either one of those picks. I was supposed to throw one more out at you, too. Dave Haxtell, the Seattle Kraken, the job that he did up there. Not much to work with, but got everybody to buy in. Obviously, he's not going to win it. And I love what Lindy Ruff has done. I really do. But I don't think there's any way, there's no way that Jim Montgomery doesn't win this award. I don't think it's not going to happen.
First year with the team, and
he's a nice story too. He had his problems. He came, he worked on them, resolved them. He came back, and now he's the coach of the President's Cup winning team. Obviously Lindy Ruff deserves a lot of credit for what he did, especially when you think about it too. It wasn't just the fans, right? It was really management saying to him, "Oh, we're bringing in was Andrew Brunette after he got fired out of Florida." They say, "Hey, by the way, he was just a head coach that was in the playoffs. And we're going to put him on your bench with you. No pressure. No pressure or nothing at all.
Yeah.
But your replacement is sitting right next to you, But, yeah, I think if Boston doesn't do what they did this season, then it's Lindy Ruff all the way. But,
yeah,
I think with this one, it's got to be Jim Montgomery. Got to be.
Is there anybody in the West you think should be in consideration?
I like, I wanted to say Todd McClellan, just, not trying to be the Homer Kings guy. He's done a great job insofar as what they've, had to deal with as well. But I have to say too, and this, we've talked about how loaded this team is with talent, and I can't believe I hear myself saying this, but look what Pete DeBoer did in Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Pete DeBoer, I mean, listen, Dallas was a good team. They've been a great team this year. And we all know that there's a massive difference between being a good team and a great team. Well, I just think that there was so much talent already there that you can't really put him over the top into any kind of a Jack Adams conversation. At least not over what Montgomery or Lindy.
Right. But DeBoer, should be recognized. I think that he should be in nomination because he just keeps doing it. And trust me, I hate it because every team he goes to, just about, except for Dallas, I can't stand. And he goes, the Devils, they turn into a playoff team. He goes, this team, they turn into a playoff team. He's except he I think he's actually won playoff series, unlike Bruce Boudreau, right? So he's the next incarnation of Bruce Boudreau because they make the playoffs. You get him, you make the playoffs. That's what people, GMs need to say when they're going to hire Pete DeBoer. Yeah. Well, if we get him, we're going to make the playoffs. We might not win the cup, but we're going to make the playoffs if we get Pete DeBoer.
Yeah. My thing with Pete DeBoer is he always leaves teams worse than when he got there.
Well,
he seems to lose the room. That's what seems to get him out of town.
Yeah.
His message goes so far, but it doesn't go many seasons, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, he just leaves teams just dead on the side of the road.
Yeah, scorched earth tactics.
It's not his fault, though.
No.
It's the fault of them making the playoffs with him. See, they make the playoffs, the GM goes and trades all their first-round picks for the next 3 years because they're making the playoffs. Then they lose in the first or second round. Then they fire the coach because they don't know what to do, and now the roster's depleted, and people think it's the coach's fault. Not the coach's fault.
Yeah,
he did. All he did was get the team to the playoffs.
And you know what? Pete DeBoer, I've heard, is a very pleasant guy, a very nice guy. And unlike his replacement in Vegas, Bruce Cassidy, who I've heard nothing but bad things about as a person. As a person, heard he's just absolute, just wretched human.
Well, I'll tell you, that'll be another discussion for another time. Let's just put it that way. Well, that was fun. We got the major awards out of the way. I mean, maybe later, a few weeks we can do the more minor awards and all that. But I think.
I know the Selke always goes to Bergeron, but just quick, the Selke, I think Zibanejad should be in the nominee.
I'm going to be curious to see who the nominees are for that. To be honest with you, I'm going to be very curious.
It's going to be Bergeron, Kopitar, and some random guy.
And don't forget the coveted Mark Messier Award.
Yes, we can't.
We all know the high requirements to get that award. You need to be selected by Mark Messier.
Yes.
Really?
Mark
Yeah.
Messier, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
He picks the award winner. It's whoever he wants.
Yeah. I wonder how many emails and texts he gets from players. Hey man, have you looked at what I did this year? You know,
I would love if he was just like Matt Zuccarello. Just pick. Yeah, I like him. He gives a lot of heart. Like,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, boys. Why don't we close this show out like we always do with the Zamboni Time Machine? The Zamboni Time Machine is brought to you by Zamboni.com, and the Zamboni name is used with permission. This week, the Zamboni Time Machine takes us back to 1970 when Charlie Finley bought the California Golden Seals. At the time of the purchase, Finley was a flamboyant owner of the equally flamboyant Oakland A's baseball team. The Seals had come into the NHL in 1967 and were already struggling as a franchise, so it was hoped that Finley would bring his outrageous marketing ideas from his other ventures to hockey and in the process turn the team around. One of the first things Finley did as owner of the Oakland A's was to change the team's colors to green and gold. So, of course, that was the first thing he did as the new owner of the Seals. Another thing he did with his baseball team was to make his players wear white cleats. So it made sense to Finley to have his hockey players wear white skates as well. Finley's lack of hockey background was obvious, and the players refused to wear them. Undaunted, Charlie showed up unannounced and made his general manager at the time, Bill Torrey, yes, that Bill Torrey, go down to the locker room and make the players wear the skates. Finley decided he didn't like them after all and instead came up with green, gold, and white skates for the Seals to wear. Believe it or not, this actually struck a chord with traditional powers like the Toronto Maple Leafs and Detroit Red Wings, who briefly implemented skates in their team colors with their uniforms. Another one of Finley's ideas didn't pan out so well either. That was to have a live seal as a mascot. The idea lasted one game, as the seal was brought out to center ice right before the national anthem was played. It barked and flapped for a minute, but then it must have gotten tired because it decided to take a nap right at the center ice faceoff dot. Suffice to say, it took the entire crew to drag the sleeping creature off the ice so the game could start. And that, my friends, concludes this week's trip on the Zamboni Time Machine. I think the NHL needs more of that.
But should that have been an omen for that franchise?
Can I just say, as somebody who grew up playing hockey, you see these football players with like the cleats that you can just basically swap colors out and do stuff like that. Baseball players, same thing. Basketball players have a million shoes they could choose from in a million different colorways. Why do we just get stuck with black hockey skates? Why can't they have some new modern stuff like I forgot what they call them, but they're like vinyl stickers that you could customize and put them on the side of the boot. But you don't see players wearing it besides like Ovechkin when he plays for Russia, and Matthews when he plays the Justin Bieber game every year.
Yeah, I don't know. That's you know what? I think you should email Gary Bettman about that.
You know what?
I bet you anything it has to do with pucks hitting the skates.
Probably.
Yeah, because you don't want them being all scuffed up and stuff, you know? If they were like white like that, they would have black marks all over them, right?
Well, so they paint. He got like house paint and made them paint the skates for the first time, and then when they were getting the black scuffs, they'd repaint them, and they were like, these skates are way too heavy. Eventually, the layers just got because I've heard about the Oakland Seals and all their antics. The seal in center ice was new to me, but the rest of it was fairly common. You know, stuff I've read. But like the vinyl stickers, they're easy to remove, easy to put on. I'm thinking about getting a set for the Rats and just wearing rat skates.
Well, I'll tell you, that would be interesting to see. But for the time being, I know I have to go because I got to go to I got to go to a meeting for my kids' schedule up at the school and all that. But this has been a lot of fun. I got to tell you guys, we should. Yeah, I know. But again, let's do this next week because it was so much fun this week.
Yes,
sounds good.
Yes.
All right. For Ed Stefaniak, for Chris Pizzati, I'm Scott Kimball. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week on Marty's Illegal Stick.